Hey everybody, before we get going today, just want to give a quick announcement about the release of my first children's book in my Healthy Children's Book series. And the first book is called Maddox's Trip to the Chiropractor. And it's just a cute story following a toddler at her local chiropractic office and just showing her excitement and how it affects her health in a positive way. And buying the book will actually support the Unlock Wellness Project, which with the Unlock Wellness Project, for each purchase of the book, we're going to be donating a wellness bag to a child in need. And we're also going to be shipping these bags to flood victims in the Houston, Texas area. So you can actually learn more about that if you go to my website at drkaseyjohnson.com. That's DRKASEY Johnson.com. Click the shop tab, click the children's book option, and there is just more information and a video explaining into more detail about the book and about the Unlock Wellness Project and the wellness bags that we're going to be sending out. So super excited to share that with you guys. And I hope you really enjoy today's episode with Jay Handley. Welcome to the Unlock Wellness Podcast. I'm Dr. Casey and excited for today's guest. I'm here with Jay Handley. And if you listen to episode 32 with Mickey Polly, we actually talked a little bit about the gym that she was in at Viking Performance Training in Morgantown, West Virginia. And Jay is actually the owner of that gym. So I'm excited to have him on and to hear his own personal health and wellness journey and just all of the awesome things that they're doing over at Viking Performance. But Jay, thanks so much for coming on. I'm really excited to have you.
Thanks for inviting me, Casey. I'm looking forward to this. This is awesome.
Just, so if you just want to jump in with your just backstory about how you got more interested in the health and wellness field and fitness and what led you to want to open your gym in Morgantown.
Absolutely. I'm a talker for one. So yeah, if I start going on tangents, feel free to, re-guide them. Yeah, I spent the 10 years before this as a strength and conditioning coach at West Virginia University. So my background has pretty much always been in training athletes for performance, but educationally it came from both that and exercise physiology. Like I came to school here at WVU, got my undergrad and the first of my two masters in exercise physiology, and then I got a second master's in athletic coaching education. So it's a pretty great combination in terms of that, because in terms of study, I've had a chance to do both the deeper science to physiology-based stuff, which I think helps a lot if you're really trying to train specifically, and then the hands-on applications with the athletic coaching. And so that's my background in terms of career. Going even further back, I got into strength and conditioning as an interest, as a very deep interest, as a competitive martial artist. Like I started competing in martial arts in general as a teenager, then picked up mixed martial arts before it was anywhere near the huge monster that it is now. Mm-hmm. And that got me so interested and serious about my own training that's kind of really how I started doing my own research, reading everything I could get my hands on, working on programming, and not just doing like the typical arms, chest, abs 3 times a week stuff that a lot of teenagers do.
Right. Just trying to get yourself at like that elite level that these athletes were having.
Exactly. So I didn't even really realize that strength and conditioning was a specific field until I was in college, that I just kind of knew about personal training and not really much else, and just thought there were personal trainers who worked with athletes more so. But then once I was actually in school, then I found out about strength and conditioning. So I basically got a chance to work my way up from intern through graduate assistant to full-time for 10 years, taught classes on the side. Had an actual chance to create a strength and conditioning minor for West Virginia University, so that was pretty cool to have a hand in. And just after about 10 years, decided it was time for a change. Coaching is pretty rough, and especially in terms of long term, because it almost always involves switching locations, having to location hop or job hop to work your way up a ladder. The safety is pretty low in terms of if somebody above you gets changed, especially like usually it's with strength and conditioning, it's usually just whichever coach brings in the most money to the athletic department. If they change, if they go somewhere else or they get fired, they get to bring in their own people, and it doesn't matter how well of a job you've done, then your job's not necessarily guaranteed when it comes to strength and conditioning or support staff. So, I mean, I was lucky. I actually went through multiple of those changes at WVU the whole time. And, you know, my level of support among the coaches and everything was strong enough to where it didn't really affect me. But it just got to the point where I wanted to change. I didn't want to change locations. I like the Morgantown areas. I've been here at that point in time longer than anywhere else in my life, and decided that I was going to open up my own thing. And that's where Viking Performance Training was born. Like, it wasn't a long-term, like, it's not something that I'd thought about for years, even a full year. It was actually less than 3 months between sitting there and thinking, I think I'm going to, you know, make this my last year and open a gym, and
That's
opening
awesome.
the gym.
That's cool. No, because I mean, that way you get to do it through love. And then also you can still work with those athletes because they can just come to you, and it creates just a steady job for you. But like, I mean, you get to do what you're passionate about and not have to have those concerns in the back of your mind.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's funny because it's, you know, it's still a lot of demands, a lot of stress, but a completely different type of stress. And yeah, like, just like you said, doing it completely for myself, knowing that I'm in charge of my fate, basically, adds a lot of enjoyment to it.
That's cool. So what year did you actually open Viking Performance?
We opened in June of 2014.
Nice. So whenever you first opened it, were you just like, did you have it just set up like a gym, or were you doing just one-on-one trainings or group trainings, or how did it look like at the beginning compared to now, or is it pretty similar to where you were whenever you started?
It was personal training and just open gym too. Like, I mean, it's always been open to just general members, and then personal training as well, whether for general fitness or the athletes that I was really targeting. And we kind of make it so that it's not specifically one-on-one unless somebody actually like wants that specific service. Otherwise, we do a lot of our training we call open gym style, which is pretty similar to kind of open gym environment in a collegiate level. But so where this the scheduling is flexible, athletes come in around a certain time they tell us, but otherwise they come in when they're able to, and we just train like anything from, if it's just one of them to half a dozen of them at once, even though they're all training for their own thing, for their own goals.
That's cool. So are you working with like specific teams at WVU right now, or just some specific athletes, or just kind of a good mix of just individuals plus like local high school, or how does that like mix look for you guys?
Yeah, it's an awesome mix. It's actually funny because with my WVU background, I'm actually not allowed to work with WVU.
Gotcha.
Not because of that, but because they have their own strength staff like I used to be. So if they're in town, even if they're on breaks or anything, they're beholden to still work out with their strength coach. So I get a lot of former athletes who come in, but high school and middle school are our biggest ones. We have a lot of different populations. It's actually pretty awesome. Like, it's growing. Like, I did not want it to be a specific, just one niche type of population, and I'm getting my wish on that. Like, we have a lot of high school athletes. It started with a lot of older ones looking to get to the next level, playing college. But this past 6 to 9 months, we've had a huge growth in younger athletes from like freshman age, a lot of more middle school athletes, even a few younger ones, which is great because they haven't picked up many bad habits. We get a chance to really get them in like long-term development plans, show them good habits. And one of a coach's jobs should be to try to get the most benefit with minimum stimulus, you know, so it lets us prevent the overwork that so many other coaches instantly put on.
And they don't take into account like all of the bad techniques that they start doing at about that high school level when they're just trying to just go. The way that compensates into college, and if they do go professional, like all of that adds up. Like whenever you see somebody's ACL go out that first year of college, it's just the result of poor training over the years, or just an imbalance in the body in general. But you got to think long term if that's what you're trying to do. Exactly.
It's so many things. And like the way people are now, you know, they want to see the best benefit or the biggest benefit immediately. Like they don't think about that, especially the younger the athlete is, the more long term it should be.
Right.
And we get to see that a lot with like when we get a lot of college athletes during breaks because we get a lot of the ones who live here around Morgantown or the area, and then whenever they're on break, they come here and train, but they go somewhere else. So spread out like all across the state, but we like having athletes as far out as Ole Miss now in Mississippi, William and Mary down in Virginia.
That's cool.
So a lot of different areas like that. So when they come back in town, they come and train, and it's really awesome to hear how well they do, even compared to their teammates from all across the country. Just knowing that they're doing most of their off-season training here with us when they can.
That's cool. Do you have any like success stories right off that you think that we should all keep an eye out for?
Yeah, I do actually. We got all the kids in here, like we try to teach them how to work. I mean, that should be one of the coach's top priorities regardless. But like there's a couple in particular. One, his name is Jack Armstrong, and he's a Morgantown kid. And I'd known him since high school, but didn't get a chance to work with him until he was going into his first year of college. And that's when that basically corresponds with right when he opened. And he goes to William and Mary, and his college breaks are enormously long. I don't know how that works for their calendar, but it does. Like he's always here like 1 or 2 weeks longer on winter break compared to everybody else, for example. But it's really cool because he was a walk-on, an invited walk-on to the school. Spent that first year basically training, practicing. He's a football player. Mm-hmm. And then, like I said, came back, trained with us like the entire summer, the entire winter break, and his redshirt freshman year, he went in, he got in some games, he got plays. Then they actually gave him a partial scholarship because he'd been so impressive. Again, came during the off season when he could, trained with us, went back, and then the next season played his sophomore season, played, maybe even started every single game. And after the season was actually given a full scholarship.
That's awesome.
So in just a little over 2 years, basically, he went from just being a walk-on, an invited walk-on, all the way to a full scholarship. And you see that sometimes, but it's typically done more like as an award for hardworking seniors or something like that who've been with the program, as a way to kind of say thank you. Schools will find those student athletes and pay for their last semester or two of school. But to have it happen that early with still 2 seasons left, I mean, that's when you know that it's actually because of his progress and how he's turned into a leader on and off the field for them.
That's awesome. Well, I think with the, becoming that leader, like if you are working that hard and you're seeing the results, the positive results done in a positive way, I mean, that just increases, especially a high schooler or a young college student, but that increases confidence so much. I mean, like, you kind of have no choice but to become a leader. You know what I mean? Exactly.
And he knows that he's had that blue collar mentality as long as I've known him. Like he knows that, exactly what it takes to just listen, be respectful to kind of everybody who's around you, mm-hmm. and just do the work constantly, like day in, day out. So he's definitely one of the top ones that comes to mind when you say that, like who's shown that success.
That's cool. Yeah, we'll have to everybody go keep out for that one. I know we were talking a little bit before we started. You're doing a lot with Strongman training. And if you want to kind of explain exactly what that is and then how you're implementing it for everybody because of the benefits that it can literally give everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Strongman, at its base is a competitive sport. And it's exploding the last several years. You see a lot of it.
Is that like dragging the airplane?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's part of it. Like where most other strength sports have very standardized, specific things that you do. Like weightlifting is just snatch and clean and jerk. Powerlifting is just bench, squat, and deadlift. Like it's only that. So they're very specialized and people know exactly what that is. When it comes to Strongman, it's basically a combination of who is functionally the strongest person that there is. So its history comes from literally just gathering, some of the strongest people from whether it was other sports or whatever, and challenging them with things that they didn't even know what it was going to be. Like in the old World's Strongest Mans that started in the 70s and 80s, like the competitors didn't know what they were doing until they showed up.
Hmm.
Like there was no training ahead of time specifically for what it is.
So you just had to be able to function and strong and
Exactly.
not going
And
to kill yourself in the process.
exactly. And that's the exact key. And that's still kind of in its essence what it's supposed to be, is being able to be really, really strong in as many functional different ways as possible. Because you have awkward objects, like but there is barbell in strongman, but it's still kind of low use. So objects that are made to be awkward or more functional, like, whether it's rocks or trees or just fatter bars, because not everything in life is just a nice, smooth 28 millimeter or 7 foot metal object to spin. Um, but then it's also not just straight lifting or pure strength like a lot of people think about it. Like that's actually only, it's definitely a big part, but you have a lot of movement. Like there's a lot of endurance events in strongman. Runners don't think of it as endurance, but if you're trying to lift a really heavy weight as many times as possible for a minute
Yeah.
straight, like that's a
It wears
whole
down
lot
on
of
you.
endurance. Like exactly, like you said, like pulling the plane, like that gets your breathing up really fast.
I'd hope so.
And then the moving too, because you also have like different carrying events or dragging events like that,
Mm-hmm.
and so you even need to have that fast footwork in that fast feet, like even agility to a sense. Like a lot of the top strongwomen in the world, they do sprint training, they do some like weighted agility training. So I said it's not just pure lifting in the traditional sense. And then on top of it, you kind of add, I think this is a big part that's increasing the popularity of it. You add just kind of that general, I feel like this is something awesome mentality, like, especially, and this is why I think one of the biggest, like women is the biggest increasing population for sure in the last 5 years in it is, you're flipping enormous tires, you're pulling cars, you're lifting logs over your head, you're lifting stones, as well as pretty much anything else you can think of like that. And it just looks way more entertaining and awesome than just constantly being in a gym,
Right. And just, and I know that you probably have to tell people this a million times, but like strength doesn't equal bulkiness. Like if you're a woman, you don't have to worry, like you're not going to be like, I don't know, like a lumberjack because you're, lifting tires. Like, the stronger you are, the more lean you are. And I think more and more people are understanding that now. I think that's kind of an old mentality.
I agree completely. Like I definitely don't have that conversation as often as I used to.
That's great.
And one of the huge benefits here with the strongman that we had, when I started the gym, I knew that there was nowhere around to really train that, and I had connections in the sport just with some guys who'd started promoting from the grassroots level, literally when it was backyard stuff, to putting all their energy into making it enormous. Like one of my best friends is named Paul Mauser. He's a state chair. He's done exactly that. He's been growing it for 11 years here in the state. Literally started as a backyard in a football field in rural West Virginia. 8 people were in the first show, and just last month we had our first professional division contest here. But one of the reasons we adapted it here at the gym is not just for the people actually competing in it, but because of its kind of awkward real world nature, there is no such thing as isolation in strongman training. So you can't just have this particular lift is going to only work my shoulders, or this particular lift is only going to work like my quads or my legs.
Right.
Because of its nature, every single event in strongman is a total body exercise, and they all put a big emphasis on your core strength, like your abs and low back, your hips staying mobile or staying tight. So that total body stability and total body strength is a huge part of it. So whether it's the strongmen themselves or, any athlete we're looking at, general fitness people, people in their 60s looking getting their hips stronger after hip replacement surgery. We use strongman for literally all of it.
That's cool. Just being able to modify it to their level. I think that's great because if it's an older person and you go to the gym and just do a few random things, but if you can't bend over and pick something up, or if you can't squat down to pick up a bowl from your bottom kitchen cabinet, you have to think about all of those movements. All of those are functions that you can strengthen in a proper way. And I
Exactly.
love that. I love that.
Yeah. So like because of my background, especially the exercise physiology portion, um, my old mentor in strength and conditioning, Mike Barwis, does a lot of work with different populations. But because of that, we try to make all the training that we do very individualized and specific. So we do barbells, we do kettlebells, we do dumbbells, we do body weight exercises. So we always try to pick what we think is going to give the best specific training for anybody's goals to come into the gym. And it's really funny when we get a lot of people who aren't used to being around some of the things that we do, some of the heavier strength training, and we're like, okay, we're going to finish your workout up with keg carries. And this is like a 58-year-old who had a knee replacement like 9 months ago.
Well, I'm sure you have an unlimited supply of that in Morgantown, right?
Yeah, that's true. It's like, although people don't want to get rid of them, it's so hard sometimes.
That's funny.
But they do them, and like some of the awesome stories that we had from those is, I had one guy who had a knee replacement. I mean, he'd had it like 2 years ago. He was in his upper 50s. He'd gained like 30 pounds since it never worked the same. Came and started training with us, and in 3 months had lost about 20 pounds and went on a 7-day hiking trip in like Montana, like climbing like wet like river banks and stuff like that, like, you know, stuff he said he could never do. Awesome. Another older gentleman came, was pretty much just shy of being on the table for shoulder surgery. We started working on him. Said like hitting what we thought would individually help him. And next time he went to the doctor, basically he said, as long as you keep doing what you're doing and don't stop, then you won't need surgery. He's like, if you stop, you'll probably need it, but as long as you keep it up, you won't.
That's
so
cool.
Really seeing that type of stuff, I said, in every population is like one of the best parts about opening it up here. Because I said, like, we have a lot of people training for everything, but I said it's all at once. Like, we don't break it up into blocks, like 3 to 5 is a high school hour, for example. Like, that's not a real thing here. So people are around the training that everybody's doing, so they see that. And so there's people who may have never tried something as specific as Strongman. Mm-hmm. And eventually, if we don't have them do it, they usually ask to try it.
That's cool. Well, have you had to deal with a lot of people that come in that are maybe intimidated by that, and that, you know, if they're a beginner and they're like, oh man, I don't think I can ever do that. But you know that they can. But right. How have you dealt with people that may be a little bit weary about putting themselves in that situation?
Well, for better or worse, from the business aspect, I think most of the intimidation happens before they even walk in.
Right. So if they're not coming in, they're not coming in, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, and part of that is probably the name, the Viking part
right.
of the name. And then, like, especially, you know, when we were like the first year or two that we were open, you know, it'd be like, oh yeah, that place that has like giant chains and stones outside the front door. So I mean, most of that was actually me hearing from the grapevine that people would, like, if they were going to be intimidated, they just wouldn't come in.
Sure.
But it kind of eventually lent way to just an unofficial saying is that if you walk in through the doors, you're going to end up coming. Like, people who come in and check it out, like I said, even if they're the least weight training type people, they usually come in and end up loving the experience and atmosphere and staying here, because we don't have that gym atmosphere of different cliques, tons of like bros and just like judgy workout people. It's funny because, you know, we all know a gym that has a judgment-free zone as a trademark.
Sure.
And I can pretty much guarantee you, with the full backup of our clientele base, that we are way less judgmental than
that's
somewhere
cool.
like that.
And I mean, and then you have people like you and Mickey who are very open and welcoming and loving. So I mean, having that helps so much as well.
Exactly. Like, yeah, because when I was at WVU, there was a lot of just little rules that I didn't think were necessarily important. It's like I mean, some of the listeners may know, you know, Coach Bob Huggins, for example, and I was with the team when he first joined them, and I still remember his very first team meeting, and the guys were asking him tons of questions, everything from, you know, practice to training table to all this stuff, and he finally just stopped it and said, "Look, guys, there's one thing you're going to find out very quickly about me. If I care about it, then I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. If I don't care about it, then you can do whatever the hell you want."
It's a very
and
Huggins answer.
yeah, and like, that's pretty much sums up the way we are here.
Yeah.
Like we want you to get the training that is going to get you where you want to be. We want the general clientele to, have a great atmosphere, not just to be able to do their training and their workouts, but also to just actually enjoy the process. And pretty much, and then, obviously be respectful to the equipment and to the other people around you, which is really good. Like we occasionally get somebody with egos coming in, and they never last more than a month, to be honest. So it just like it goes with that, one of those kind of the automatic ways the place is built and shaped itself.
Right.
I'm really happy
Just the
about that
culture
too.
that, you guys created.
Exactly. But so, we have members bring their dogs in, like people never really thought about that. They're not used to dog friendly gyms or something. And then they started seeing other people bring their dogs in, and everybody's like,
and I remember Mickey had
love it.
mentioned like that people bring their kids in.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, I think that's awesome because it just allows more people to get there. And I love how you guys have been using social media to kind of put more information out there, because it does make it less intimidating and it makes it look fun. And I think the more people see that, that's just a good way to reach a lot of people, especially in the Morgantown area.
I think so. Mickey has been an enormous part, not just of the gym's growth, but she was like one of the huge pieces that was needed to really open a lot of people's eyes to what Viking could be. Because I honestly think if it wasn't for Mickey, it would have taken a lot of female clients in general, people more kid related, more general fitness style, where she does like the stronger wellness population, so to speak, a lot longer to really give Viking a look since she did come. Because since she came, a lot of people kind of walked in with her, to check out what she was doing, because they really liked it, and everything that she does is growing with the like nutrition and wellness classes and her warrior body class especially. And that opened a lot of people coming in that normally probably wouldn't, or would have just taken much longer to come in.
Yeah. And she's such a genuine person too. I mean, she's been like that since, basically since I've known her, like in college.
Right.
And like, I mean, it's definitely naturally who she is, just wanting to help people in a loving way. And she knows her stuff. So that's awesome
Exactly.
that you have her. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's been definitely a huge part of Viking, like really growing, but also getting just that like super community friendly vibe that now it has.
Yeah.
So we went from intimidating to still somewhat intimidating, but very community friendly.
But now Mickey has it under control.
Yep. And she's got a lot of those examples, like I said, of where people, just by being around the positive atmosphere, really get after it. And I cannot say enough about a positive atmosphere at gyms. Like, don't make it about just working out in the equipment, make it so that, try to get it so that you do have a mix of people around each other and learn about each other and support what each other are doing. Because one of the best examples I have of this is I have two soccer girls, two sisters. One I've been training for about 2.5 years now, probably. She's a junior in high school now, just started. So I got her basically going into as a freshman. And her little sister started a little bit less than a year ago, who is in middle school. So I said, they've been great, they like the training enough to where after only a few sessions, they pretty much had guaranteed they're going to be here for the entirety of their high school career. And then, the mom was supportive, and the mom actually works really close to us at up the hill. And eventually she started talking to Mickey and got a group of women together from work, and they kind of scheduled a lunchtime workout 2 or 3 days a week. And a lot of these women had never worked out before, or at least never done strength training before. And they were pretty much, admittedly, from every single one of their mouths, somebody who would not have come into this gym
right.
Normally. But, they got talked into it by this mom of the soccer girls, and they tried it. Like I said, they loved Mickey. They actually found out that the atmosphere wasn't scary, and that they actually loved it, thought it was fun. It wasn't traditional weightlifting. They were doing like Mickey's very good at, she's adapted her style very well to including all the types of training as well. And less than 6 months later, 2 of those 6 women had signed up for their first strong woman competition.
Wow, that's so awesome.
Like, these are moms, these aren't like
professional athletes or
exactly,
younger,
like 23-year-old former college athletes looking for something to compete in. Like, so the fact that they could go in, such a short time frame from coming in and having like their first experience to not just building the confidence and the strength and like that self-belief, but the interest in being like, I'm going to try this thing that is completely never on my radar until literally like 6 months ago.
That's really cool. I mean that changes everything for their whole family. I mean, it's just
exactly.
it's really cool. It's cool how that community really like that community creates consistency. I mean, that's all that it is once you create that community, that culture, then people want to be consistent and they want to be, congruent with all the actions that they're taking.
It really is. Yeah. I cannot say enough about the importance of culture when it comes to a good training environment. Like, that was important when I was at the collegiate ranks. Like, team culture is imperative.
Oh yeah.
Like, one of the teams at some point in time, I worked with every team at WVU.
That's awesome.
So, while I was there, like the year after I left is when they added golf. So I can no longer say that accurately. Gotcha. But I worked with everybody that was there while I was there at some point. And so, I mean, I got to see all the different cultures, and some it just didn't work. Like,
what was probably your favorite culture that you got to work with?
Well, probably the one closest to me for sure. Part of I spent like my last 6 years out of the 10, one of my sports is I was in charge of women's soccer with Nikki Izzo Brown. And I mean, her culture, she is literally the only coach that they've ever had. Like, she started the program, I think when she was 24 or something.
That's crazy.
She had spent 1 year coaching at West Virginia Wesleyan, got asked if she wanted to start the women's program at WVU in the late 90s, and tried it, and literally from the ground up built it. And her work ethic is incredible. She's instilled that. Like, they've never had a losing season.
I was about to say, they've always been successful. They were very successful whenever I was there too.
Yeah, exactly. Like, she's just constantly building it up. And I mean, like, for example, they were runner-up. They were national runner-up last year. They started this year preseason number 1. And when I was there, I was basically got to be there through the transition from the Big East to the Big 12. And it didn't miss a beat. But like I said, her culture is amazing. Like, it's basically fanatical, but the good type of fanatical.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, she wants everything to be like spot on, everybody working. But like, she takes the responsibility on herself. Like, if something isn't, she's not going to finger point at everybody else around. Like, she
which is what a true leader
does.
So,
exactly.
Yeah.
So that would be the closest, because I was also involved in everything. Like, that wasn't just a workout. I went to every practice. I went to every game. I went on every away trip with them. So like, I spent way more time with that team specifically than I did with the others.
That's cool.
But then I've had a lot of favorite teams, like in general, like the team that was with men's basketball from that switch from John Beeline to Coach Hugs. Like, that was a phenomenal team, because they had, they didn't have the time, or I should say basketball didn't have the time for Huggins to recruit his own team for a couple of years. So it had to be turning John Beeline's guys into Bob Huggins guys.
Sure. Oh, and man, don't you miss Deshaun?
Yeah,
exactly.
Deshaun's my boy.
That was such a great season.
Yeah, Deshaun, Missoula, Joe Alexander, Ted Talkington, like all those guys. But yeah, like that team made it to the Sweet 16. I think a lot of people forget about that, or like they don't necessarily. Like, they just think about it from Hugs' perspective, which is important for sure. But a lot of people don't step outside and realize that was a Sweet 16 team made up of John Beeline guys.
Right.
So for a team to come together with a brand new coach and
whole new system, everything.
And yet to do that, like, that's phenomenal. So I really miss those guys. Like, Joe Alexander would literally text myself and the other strength coach that worked with them at like 2 a.m. and say, like, like, I've been trying to make this weight gain shake, and it's that I got from GNC, and it says, 4 cups of liquid and 4 scoops. You just can't drink that much. But I figured it out. I do 2 scoops of liquid and put in like 2 protein bars in the mix, and it's half the liquid and the same amount of calories. Or the day that he figured out that he could basically skip the middleman and make a peanut sauce for spaghetti, and he's like, I just put peanut butter on my spaghetti and chicken now. We're like, that's great. Go to sleep.
Right. This reminds me like Elf. It's like surf and spaghetti.
Yeah, exactly. So there have been a handful of teams like that. Like I had a really close connection to women's rowing. I worked with them for 5 years, and all the coaches are good friends. I actually trained one of their head assistant coach for strong. She's actually my first strong woman and still trains with me.
That's cool.
So like that's about as blue collar as it gets is rowing as well. I mean, it's not a sport in terms of
sport,
revenue. Sure. Yeah, like attention, glamour, revenue, but they're waking up and practicing like at 5:30 in the morning every day.
Right.
So I mean that takes a lot of work. So that takes a special type of committed person to make that work as well.
It does. No, that's awesome that you've got to work with such a variety of different sports teams, especially with WVU, because I know we both love the Mountaineers.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
but hey, Jay, what do you have going on like at the gym? Like what's coming up in the future? Do you guys have classes coming up or another event coming up?
Yeah. Well, actually, 6 months ago, we expanded in the building that we're at. Like there was a daycare underneath of us. We came up with a really great win-win-win situation for everybody involved. They moved to a new building, and we basically moved into this space. It's 3 times the size now. Like this downstairs is about 6,500 square feet now.
Wow.
We have a 45-yard turf in the middle and a 9,000 square foot yard outside that's all ours. So our ability to train people is phenomenal now. Like when I opened, we were 2,500 square feet, and that was basically, I knew that I could do what we needed to do, but this is definitely a case of like having the more space lets me do what I really want to do. So that's phenomenal for our training. But because of that, now the original weight room, we still have it. And that is what we're developing into our group fitness area. Because I mean, God bless Mickey, because when she started Warrior Body, really for those first 2 years, I mean, she was having class literally in the middle of just other people training. A 2,500 square foot facility.
Yeah.
So now she has basically her own 2,500 square foot facility that just happens to still be Vikings.
That's awesome.
So expanding group fitness is one of our big things for sure. Like we have a lot of ideas that we're getting on that, like different specialties we want to bring up there, like everything from just different variations of training for adults or people interested. We want to really get some kids stuff going. Like Mickey and I have joined together for the last year and a half or so for this thing we've labeled Strong Kids, which is literally like little mini Strongman modified competitions modified for kids. And that's been hugely popular. So we have a Strong Kids Halloween coming up in October. I mean, like I said, it's kids aged 4 to 13 doing modified strongman competition in costume. Like it doesn't get better.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of pictures for that. So I'm excited.
Yeah,
to see
exactly.
That.
Like it does not get better than.
You're gonna have like little Superman running around with like.
Oh yeah, like we've had kids who've done every single one that are super pumped. One random thing that I'm pumped about is like the strongman community is amazing in terms of meeting people. Especially you've been lucky enough to take some trips like across the country for it. But one of the people I've become good friends with the last couple of years because of it is a pro strong woman named Brooke Souza. And she lives in Columbus, 3 hours away. And she's got her 2 girls coming. Like
that's cool.
So just the fact, it's one of those things where, I mean, in the end, it's still, it's for any kid, 2 girls. But just that simple fact, thinking about it, a pro strong woman is bringing her girls to compete in this kids show. Like that just has that
this costume
of being like
kid.
extra cool.
That's so awesome.
So we have that. We definitely want to grow the kids stuff, group stuff. I kind of have like the outside space, that 9,000 square foot yard has so many possibilities.
Definitely.
I'm I'm kind of glad that winter is not that far away. Well, one, I just like winter, but 2, because it kind of gives me time to figure out what I want to do with it, because of those possibilities. And then we always are trying to grow events. Like but to cover everything, like to let people know that we're not a specialty one-stop place, that like we're basically here for every single strength related sport and activity that there is.
That's awesome. And Jay, like if people want to just learn more about everything that you guys are doing and see all of the the events coming up, and definitely see the costumes that are about to happen. What are the best way for people to follow you on social media or your website? Just any way that people can find out more about what you guys are doing.
Yeah, social media is definitely the best one. The best one is probably undoubtedly our Facebook page, just Viking Performance Training LLC on Facebook. Otherwise, Instagram is by far my second most active. We're under there as Viking_performance. I try to post a lot on Instagram. We're on Twitter as well, but I'm just not as good at Twitter. So a lot of my Twitter feeds are just shared straight from Instagram anyway.
Okay. Is it the same as the Instagram, just Viking_performance?
I think it's Viking Perform. Yeah, it's just Viking Perform with no underscore or anything.
Okay, cool.
And then our website, VikingPerformanceTraining.com. We're going to remodel that very soon. So right now, I would say that's still the best place to see like things in terms of the training that we do, the services, the packages that we have. But for information, I would say that hopefully within just a few weeks, it'll be a much better place. But right now, it's in that going to be remodeled soon.
Gotcha. Cool. And Jay, just closing question for you before we jump off. But if you just have one piece of advice to give the audience, maybe it's something that's helped you the most personally with your wellness journey and your fitness journey. But if you just had one piece of advice to give, what would it be?
Oh man. Honestly, it's just go all out and just be completely honest with yourself and anybody else you're around. Like I am very, very direct when it comes to dealing with people, what I want for myself, like very high standards. But that's just because I want to give the absolute best experience to anybody that comes through Viking or wants anything from Viking whatsoever. I want to give that best experience. So I set high standards, and it's pretty much the only thing I'll accept from anything starting with myself. So I would say that's pretty much it. Like don't be worried. Don't get anxious. Like those feelings are normal. Just go for it all. And like I said, basically just don't let yourself make excuses or talk yourself out of things before you've even tried them. You just have to go out and try it. I have a lot of I'm a hardcore person. So I have a lot of very specifically things like that work for my mentality. And I'm sorry that I'm taking this part way longer than.
Oh no, you're cool.
But like several, part of me wonders who the real source of the saying was. But several generals in the past, for example, have been credited as saying that with a saying called "burn the boats." Like basically they land. I think just a few, but like landing on another shore, and then having their army burn the entire boat or fleet that they came on, so that their only option was to succeed. Like they couldn't run away.
That's awesome.
They had no. And I'm a big believer in that mentality. Like I want to just make sure that when I go for something, that I'm going to go for it with every ounce of energy that I have. So that would be the biggest thing I would like to see other people do, or I would advise is like, if there's something that you really want to achieve and go for it, like don't try to, tippy toe it. Don't try to do the minimum for it. So don't talk yourself out of it early. Just go for it as absolutely as hard as you can. If other people are telling you should stop and quit, then you're probably on the right path.
Right. No, I 100% agree. And I love all of that, by the way. That story is awesome. But Jay, I really appreciate you coming on and taking time to and talking more about Strongman. I think it's incredible. And I'm excited just to follow you guys and just watch you guys grow.
So I really appreciate it. And same thing, like I'm really excited to continue seeing that, who you have on the podcast, like all the information that you're getting out there. I think it's a great thing that you're doing.
I appreciate that. Awesome. But have an awesome day, Jay.
You too, Casey. Take care.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to today's episode. I hope you loved my conversation with Jay. He's really doing some amazing work, and be sure to follow him on social media to keep up with everything that Viking Performance is up to. You can find all of his social media links and his website in the show notes. But you can also find all of his links if you go to my website at drkaseyjohnson.com. That's DRKASEY Johnson.com. Click on the Listen tab, and then from there you'll be able to see all of the past guests that have come on the Unlock Wellness podcast and be able to see a little bit more information about each guest and all of their social media links and websites. So you'll be able to find Jay there and be able to click on all of his links to follow him on social media. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to jump onto iTunes, subscribe, and write a review. It really helps us out a lot and really appreciate the feedback. And also, just like we talked about at the announcement at the beginning of the show, be sure to also, while you're on drkaseyjohnson.com, click on the Shop tab and click on the children's book option. And just check out a little bit more about my first children's book and my Healthy Children's Book series, and learn more about how purchasing that book is going to be making a positive impact on so many children in need and also flood victims in the Houston, Texas area. But I'm extremely excited to launch that, and excited to hear your feedback. But thank you guys so much for tuning in, and thank you so much for the support.